Ladies and gentlemen, Pronago welcomes you to another Cause Monarchy tournament matchup, and this one is going to be an interesting best of 5. In our Tribunal stage, we just opened up those matches. You may have already seen the opening number 1, but we're into the second opener now with Kasuga taking on ThunderSlaps. Kasuga is seed number 5 after some impressive runs in weekend wages, and I'm looking forward to seeing if he can continue his performance. But it's pretty cutthroat here. It's single elimination in the Tribunal stages. There's 6 of them total, and we're in the 4th overall. Usually around 12 players end up signing up, so we play about 11 matches of best of 5s all the way through. Great way to test people's mettle, see if they're good to go. So by now you're probably familiar enough with this format that I don't need to go overindulging in my lovely desire for details, but I can tell you that earlier today Kasuga was practicing for this very matchup against Hamster. But ThunderSlaps is a different kind of fella, isn't he? He's a fella from Canada. He comes in here as one of our newest players, our only debutant to Acropolis in this particular tournament. Now, I mean, technically there's players who debuted in previous tribunals for this event. Hanmano, for example, all of the pro players, in fact, Ziki and Oya. But in this particular case, we have ThunderSlaps laying the smackdown in ridiculous form. This man does a lot of aggressive moves. He'll stay on a very small worker count for a very long time. People have likened his playstyle to Hamster with rushes and Art of Turtle with aggression, so if you've seen either of those two players game in Cause Monarchy, then you know what to expect. Kasuga, on the other hand, has been a little bit more of a straightforward one-baser into some macro play with extra bases after the fact. He can play that style, but his success in the most recent weekend wage, which he participated in, got all the way to the grand finals to be seen off by a returned and resurging hit-em-up. And up until that point, he had blown past a bunch of bigger names, including Krankendow, that you wouldn't really associate with losing to Kasuga, but showing some growth, showing some power. Now, the Quas are not going to be able to immediately get through this ramp here on. We are on Gilded Wall for game number 1, by the way. I'll show the map veto in a bit. But Kasuga has been practicing up a little bit of a lattice-based play. 2-gate, 2 lattice, which we did see that first lattice added on after the 2-gate. And what people are starting to do is filter in manifolds to help their legionnaires and their idols. But in this particular case, Kasuga did scout the fast pool. He knows he doesn't need the armor pen versus pool units, so he ends up going straight to the idol, which in some ways can be more impactful. Now, if he does end up slipping the mind, I didn't never make my manifolds, we see one queued up as we speak, then this Hydra switch that Thunder is doing can very well catch him off guard. So we do see this little push and pull of, well, I'm going to go Hydra because my pool units can't touch your army, and then now the Protoss is starting to add the manifolds. What do the manifolds do? They increase armor pen of allies in an area around the manifold as long as the manifold itself is attacking. Now, that Quas was burrowed in a key location to indicate to ThunderSlaps that the movement of the enemy army is certainly headed westward. Gilded Wall, by the way, is a port of Golden Wall done by Jujic. It is a Starcraft 2 map brought into our atmosphere. I'm looking forward to seeing how it evolves. I also really like the angle of attack over here for Thunder. He's got a bunch of Zets, and he has some Quas, obviously, as the bread and butter of the army, but really he's starting to replace them already with Hydras, and something that we want to see him do with this little burrow trap here, it's going to be quite devious. You should expect this kind of move from ThunderSlaps throughout this series. He can be pretty nasty with it. And we'll see if Kasuga decides to bite. His own expansion is halfway complete while the ThunderSlaps hatch is already done. And when he sees this many Hydras, he should be feeling pretty good about himself. But he did just walk right over the Zets, and now they're right in the back line already. Those idols going to have their work cut out for them. The manifolds could be focused down if Thunder wants to get some Izira cores in the fray, but he doesn't have any right now. It's just pure Zeth Quas Hydra. And it does look like, unfortunately, his Ecclesiasts were not focus fired there. So it does feel like Kasuga is on the precipice of breaking through with that 5-minute timing. I felt like Thunder had the resources, the little recipe for some kind of success onto those Ecclesiasts with that Zeth trap, but he didn't focus the idols, he didn't focus the Ecclesiasts. He needed to pick one or the other. He's starting to make some emergency defenses, but GG has to be called as the Ecclesiasts are still there to keep the Legionnaires alive. And that is a very big statement win from Kasuga. He does not get tripped up by any tricks, but at the same time, ThunderSlaps only did show a fairly standard build order. Let's see what happens in Game 2. Ladies and gentlemen, Game 2 between Kasuga and ThunderSlaps. It's going to be a fun time because we are going to be looking at Just a little bit more aggression coming out of Thunder is my prediction, but he can't do it on this map. You want to know why? We are on Monzite right now. Monzite offered to us by Cannoli, who is also participating in this tournament. Monzite has some interesting features, most notably the fact that it is an island map. So I'm not saying you can't be aggressive, but I am saying you gotta decide to do it in a different way. Do not 6-pool on Monzite, please, for the love of God. If I see a Zerg do that in this tournament, I will have a hearty chuckle at their expense. Monzite is an interesting one. Up until recently, we were kind of speculating Escozy would be really weak on it, which Escozy are in the tournament. Godwheat and Doglived are both Escozy players who have signed up. And we were thinking, oh, maybe it's going to be a little bit weak, but the Cosmoscope's tech requirement was changed to not require the tech node, instead to just require a basic factory, right? The radix or the function. Anyway, that's for the 4th race stuff. We're not going to be seeing that in this particular case, but I'm glad to see that the Escozy kind of leveled out in that respect. Just at the end there, it means that this map is going to feel a little bit more fair to include. Now, Thunder might have... I felt like something about the way that Thunder approached this map. He did randomly select it, and I think that's actually because he ran out of time to make a decision, or maybe he did deliberately click the random, option there in our draft website. But I'm interested in what he wants to do here, because he is going for a Larvosk. There is a Vassal that's flying across the map, but the distance to cross with basic air units like Protoss, it's long enough that I think you can afford to get a pool up, or you can just respond to the single Vassal by putting down a Spraith, right? So we'll see what Thunder wants to do. He should be somewhat expectant of this kind of behavior, and it looks like he wants to go ahead and expand. So he's going to probably put down his hatch at around the same time that the Vassal comes in. As he drops it down there in the bottom left, he seems to have sussed out what's happening. Really, what you probably want to do is take the one that's wounded and turn that into the Kagrant, or at the very least burrow the ones that are being attacked. So we'll see what ThunderSlaps' micro is like. I actually don't know if he's had to deal with this before, and right now Kasuga is sort of fluffing this. He sent the Vassal down there, and it automatically picked the target of the Kagrant instead of him focusing down on workers. He could be killing workers this whole time, unless it's a deliberate choice of his to try to kill the Kagrant itself, which actually it seems like might be. Is he calling the bluff? Thunder was very, very slow on the draw. He could have mutated that Spraith, and now he won't get his worker back unless he cancels, which he does at the very least. This third K-Grid to be made so far. First was a Larvosk, second was just killed. It looks like the third one will also be suffering the same fate, but he is just going to hold on to it, and now he needs to make some Hydras, indeed. But there's 4 Vassals on his doorstep here, 2 more on the way. We saw a very fast envoy be made out of that embassy back at home for Kasuga, but this is where all the action is right now. Now, this looks pretty dire. I won't lie to you guys. Thunder does look pretty far behind, but I do think 4 Hydras will beat the 6 Vassal timing. And I think then from there, Kasuga doesn't exactly have a lot of options to attack, right? So he's done a lot of damage. He killed 2 Droleth. He killed, obviously, 2 Kagrants. And now the Larvosk as well. And there's no extra Vespene. But Thunder does have a hatch down there in the bottom left, and I don't think Kasuga was savvy to that. The Vassal vision range is very poor. 2 more Vassals are going to start zooming up. Oh, the Autocort has been selected. So there's a pilot inside that envoy as well. So Kasuga's going to try to do some real dirty stuff here. He's going to have to go up against a Spraith, which is going to shut down a lot of the Vassal play. But the 10 Vassals can still very much endanger a couple of Hydras, and we don't see anything else being done here by Thunder just yet. He's not harvesting Vespene, and he's just hoping that the Vassals don't find his natural, which, that's why I was sort of mentioning that particular detail. Now, for some reason, a Warden is put down over here. I'm not quite sure what the Autocort is doing that for. I guess he's trying to camp out at the natural here, not realizing that there's a back base. In fact, this map, now that I see it, this map is improperly configured, at least for the Witness. Maybe it's not for the players, because the resources are not revealed. So that's something that could only probably ought to resolve. I mean, I guess I can also resolve it on my own. I think from seeing people stream this map, that is an issue only for the Witness. But yes, the back base is revealed. He's going to go ahead and start shuffling things forward. Now, if you unload the Autocort, you can then power the Warden just by itself. But if the Hydras just kill the Autocort because Kasuga's a little bit too lackadaisical with it, then that might not be a good move. Starts to put down another Warden. I don't think Thunder has ever seen something like this before, and there's a lot of Wardens going down, courtesy of that Autocort. We finally found a use for it. You can see the spray. It's just one spray versus 13 vassals. It's going to take a while before it pops him. But still, he can kind of heckle the extremities. He does need to watch out, though. Yeah, even this Warden that's warping in off to the left will still help shut down the mining. So this is something that needs to be resolved ASAP. The Larvask has been remade. He ends up ferrying over another Warden that was farmed down on the low ground, and all of a sudden, this is looking pretty dire. Now, 6 Hydras are being made, or soon to pop, but there needs to be some kind of reaction to this. As long as he snipes the Autocort, he's fine. If he snipes the Autocort, there's no power here. I don't know if Thunder is actually aware of that, though. It's so close to dead. Oh, he just needs to hunt the thing down. But it's staying alive. It's just barely staying alive. Kasuga could have controlled this a lot better, to be fair. And now the vassals are trying to surge onto the Spraith. It's a valid choice. He can absolutely do that. He will kill the Spraith. And there's 6 vassals remaining. He's ferrying workers down to the low ground to see if he can withstand this assault. He just needs to pop the Autocort, but he's still busy attacking the Warden instead. It does go down. He's making more Hydras, but it's a very snail's pace. He's harvesting Vespene down here in the bottom left. This is ridiculous. An absolutely absurd game 2. Might be over pretty quickly here from this point forward as he scoops up a couple more, but there was no Spray 3 made, and the Autocort still stands tall with a pylon powering the ones in the back. A Barghest has arrived to boost Armor Pen, and that means Zero Cores aren't even going to be that useful here versus the Vassals. I mean, they'll still help and probably be better than the Hydras. You can see him thinking about what to make on the low ground national. He's got a lot of money, but no way to spend it. Ends up queuing up Hydras, knowing that his time to make Hydras is running out. He's ferried a couple from the low ground, or just one from the low ground. Now, if I'm on ThunderSlaps' shoes, I'm popping that Autocort as soon as I can, but another one will come, and yeah, all the Hydras inside the main base going down. He's got 2 more making. That I guess you finish, I mean, I suppose, but he's got no way to make any other units. Man needs a pool. Man needs something. As the natural ends up dropping, he is at least off of his island, so he can expand on the low ground, as you're seeing here. A Scribe has been dispatched. Is he still alive just based on the fact that he's got all of this anti-air? Starting to make a couple of more Cesians. Remember, the Barghest's helping out a lot for anti-armor. I feel like it's too much for him to deal with, but maybe we'll start to believe. The Hatch in the main is dead. Can't do much of anything about that. Warden's on the high ground, and an engram on the high ground. This all could have been avoided. He goes for a Circuit at the extremity, but that's likely to be popped, and yeah. Oh man, nuked before he could even really look at it. Dude, somewhere, 3Crow is losing his mind, enjoying this game so very thoroughly. A pylon will power them in perpetuity. Nablime is probably scratching his head like, is this tech? Hold on, is this tech? Now, the engram is going to get shot at by the Circuit, and there's only one. Okay, there's only a pair of Spraits over here. It's likely to just get focused down. Indeed it will, and the engram will stay alive. The proxy engram has finally happened, and it's a little bit of a deranged way to make it happen, but I'm into it. Man, Thunder has never had to play a game like this. If Monzite games are going to look this wild all the time, then I think we have found a new winner. The engram is here, ladies and gentlemen. I think I can save that screenshot for later. I might need that. What a legend, dude. GG. Thunder goes down 0-2, but those were the wacky maps. Those were the stranger maps in the series. Now we go normal and the 6th pool comes out. Mark my words. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Kasuga in the top left, ThunderSlaps in the bottom right. Just like Monzite, except this one isn't an island map. This is Corrosion, a map by Biddy B. In fact, I did say I would tell you guys about the veto. Weirdly enough, Kasuga picked Gilded Wall, but then randomed his other picks, including his last ban. He initially had banned Saberhand, while Tesseract got banned by Thunder. And Thunder random picked Monzite, and then deliberately picked Magnetron as map 4. So that's what's coming up next, if Thunder wins game 3 here and now to extend the series. Impulsion waits in the wings as our decider, should we get to a game 5. And you know what? I'm down to see a lot of games between these players. I do feel like Thunder's been a little bit hard done by so far with the maps being wackadoodle. However, it is worth noting he figured out Monzite was an island before getting into the lobby. He knew what he was in for. Before we even got into game 1's lobby, he said, hell, Monzite's an island map. And that's right. That is correct. However, I do still think he's got potential here. He's not going to go for the 6th pool. He's showing more depth of character, perhaps, than I had initially given him credit for. But Corrosion is a map that I think is fairly standard as it comes. I don't think we're going to need to worry too much about strange map features. There's obviously, it isn't an island map is one thing, but it doesn't have the back features of Gilded Wall. That came into fruition for the game that we saw earlier. For all intents and purposes, Gilded Wall might as well have been a standard map. Ramp into the natural, and then the natural itself had a ramp into the rest of the ground, into the rest of the area. This little chunk of unbuildable terrain here doesn't confer any cliff advantage or anything, so that's just there to indicate unbuildable tiles. So yeah, we ended up getting to see 3 different map makers at play here. Jujik for Gilded Wall, and Cannoli for Monzite, and now Biddy B for Corrosion. Shout out to our mappers. Appreciate all your contributions. Quads are going to get to the ramp just in time to see the Legionnaire, which I don't think will be initially turned away by one pair of quads, but apparently Kasuga wanted to be a little bit more conservative. We've got double lattice here, and the Ecclesia Zealot back at home are likely to contribute some more as well. Thunder maybe was able to chase down that Legionnaire with perfect micro, but always hard to catch those suckers. And it looks like he's going to go for an expand after double Larvosk. So this points towards a very low worker count type of aggressive pool flood game. We'll see if his gas ends up being for a Vornath Pond, as his hatch does end up going down. Kasuga scouting this might give him some, false confidence if he's not familiar with ThunderSlaps' game. But we'll see. How quickly does the den come? ThunderSlaps actually adding another Kagran behind him. Maybe his gas was for another Larvosk behind his minerals? Yeah, okay, so he's really going to be flooding a lot of units here. You can get a ton of mineral dump units between Zeths, 25 minerals a pair, Quas, 50 minerals a pair. You can make so many units. Idols are going to be your natural enemy, but it is doable. It's an overcomable obstacle. The problem is that if the Ecclesiasts don't get targeted, Zeths are going to have less damage. If the Idols don't get targeted, well, Zeths are going to die faster. And Quas to an extent as well. They do deal small, pocketed splash damage here. So we're going to need to see what Thunder's game plan actually is. He's got a bunch of Zeths up on that ramp. I don't think it's enough to be particularly lethal here, but maybe he just sets up for a run-by. Yeah, that looks like exactly what he's doing. Just barely slips into the third base location so that he can send them in after the main army has been taken care of. Unfortunately, it looks like the Quas kind of suicided there. They could have intended to do a little bit more with it, and now Kasuga is going to have to respond to this threat. He's got no static defense set up, so the workers are going to be taxed here. Thunder staying on a pretty minimal worker count, as previously mentioned. He's preemptively setting up extra Kagrans. I don't think that's going to be for Larvosks, though. He has enough gas for one more. Big drill in the gas here to try to keep those scribes alive. We've only lost 2 scribes for Kasuga, maybe 3. Yeah, it looks like 3. He remade another worker in there. That was based on the worker count. I would have preferred those circuits were down here at the natural, but I guess he feels like he needs to defend further back at home, expecting a very heavy committal from the Protoss army. And one big problem is he lost all the Quas and all the Zeths. So he doesn't have any more military units from the early stages of the game to show, whereas he's killed 0 enemy military units himself. And so the Quas actually just pop off the rally just in time to see what Kasuga is setting up for. So he's going to slink back away and see what else he can make over here. He's set up for circuits. I think he's going to need more than even that. You can see him trying to stall things out, trying to just slow this down a little bit, increase his development, increase how much larva he can make. He ends up getting that Drolith away. Not entirely sure what its utility is going to be as he adds a 3rd circuit inside the main base, which I would say go up to 5 here, man. You are in a really tough position. If Kasuga just kind of hangs back here and builds a base, he's going to be ahead of you for a considerable amount of time while you try to tech in on one base. But I don't know if 3 circuits are going to be enough to hold, and it doesn't look like he's really hell-bent on making any more units here. Okay, he just makes more Droleth. That's kind of ballsy. If you can hope that the 3 circuits stay alive long enough, but there's 6 zealots and a couple Ecclesias here. I don't know that your army is going to withstand this onslaught. No focus fire from the circuit. It looks like finally they're going to be targeting those zealots, but they're still alive and they are still breaking through. I think it was a mistake to droll there and only sit on the 3 circuit. Dang, GG. ThunderSlaps has been Thunder-slapped. Kasuga has that hand of Todd. I'm a little bit, feeling like I could have eaten more in that series. I won't lie to you guys, but I do want to give a GG's out to Thunder for giving it the attempt. He tried to play at the edge of what was possible, at the edge of what was capable, and I don't think he was ready for Kasuga's strategies. So caught a little bit unprepared as we go ahead and mark Kasuga the winner of this here matchup. And also that we say, hey, good luck to Kasuga, because he just managed to make it through to face Doglived. That will be Protoss versus Ascozi in the quarterfinal. So thanks to all for joining us. We will see you guys for another tournament match as soon as the VODs come out. So I will see you then. GG.